This is Nina Lockwood. Welcome to Get Your Happy Back. Stories and insights that will inspire you to find new sources of happiness in your own life. Hi, and welcome to Get Your Happy Back. And today we have Nicholas Clay with us. Good morning, Nick.
Good morning, Nina.
Nice to have you here. And we are going to do some unusual things today, perhaps, because we're going to chat with Nicholas less about what he does and who he is and how he feels about certain things, particularly happiness. So I have a quote here from Rumi, which is actually related to love, but I think it's equally as true about happiness. So I'm going to read it. It's just a couple of sentences. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you've built against it. What do you think about that?
I think that speaks to the process of going within yourself and realizing that everything that you're searching for externally, you already have within you.
Yes. How many fairy tales and movies have told us that same story, and yet we still don't believe it?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of that and how we feel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Say,
it's also
say more
hard
about
for
that.
us. Yeah, it's hard for us to grasp things that we can't see. And when you have those quotes like that, when you have these deeper messages of various practices that go within yourself, it's challenging because it takes a stillness. You're picking up on subtle energy. You have to pay attention closely to yourself, and it's more of a challenge. It's easier to go outside yourself. It's easier to find the puzzle pieces out in the world to fill in the gaps. It's harder to grasp how everything you could already need is within you because a lot of what's taught in the world that's been embedded in our psyche for generations is that there's some inherent issue with us. We're born
Mhm.
defective, and people always say, well, no one's perfect. And like many things, we shorten these understandings to realize that perfect is the way we want something to be, and there's a perfectness in the imperfectness. So the deepest aspects of life seem to always come back to a paradox.
That's a really good point. And I'm going to circle around a little bit because your background as an integrative coach practitioner, you studied energy medicine as I have. You refer to yourself as a mindful alchemist, which I love that phrase. And all of your training and experience in working with clients, what is it, we were just starting to talk about this, but what does ancient wisdom say about happiness? Or have you already just said it?
Yeah. It, yeah. Well, ancient wisdom, combination of what we understand about emotions as well. Happiness is it's an emotion. It's true happiness is found within, and it's generated. Yet happiness and peace are also not the same as well. So it's I think I'm not sure if we started this before our official talk. Things come and go. Emotions comes and it goes, and so accepting that I think also comes a part of it as well. You know.
It's very interesting how society teaches us that happiness is through things that are outside ourselves, accomplishments, acquisitions, certain connections. And yet the wisdom traditions say that happiness comes from within. So no wonder we get a little bit confused. Am I looking for this? Am I looking for this? It can be very confusing. I think to a lot of people to really understand that happiness is not just laughing and joking and balloons and confetti, but it's something deeper And I'd love to know your thoughts on this, that it's something deeper. It's part of our essence. It's part of who we are. Otherwise, if happiness is within, where else would it be? It's got to be part of our essence that isn't affected by changing circumstances.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of proofs in that in the world. I think it's important to be mindful that in first world countries, we're largely marketed towards. And so it's beneficial that happiness is outside of us because then it keeps us on the wheel to go get the thing that we think we need that we're being sold. And if that were true, then every person in a second and third world country would be unhappy because they didn't have the things. And we see quite the opposite. They tend to be some of the most happiest people. And when you look at the path of getting to know yourself deeper and deeper, at the, you can say, the most practice levels, that of monks, you see this trend of either, as in monks, giving up all possessions, or a lot of people, you start to value possessions less. You become what we can call a minimalist. And so we see the opposite. The more we go within, the less we need without.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, with everything that you've learned and all the various techniques and practices that you've been exposed to and you share with your clients, what actually makes you happy?
That's a good question. I like to see other people happy. I like when other people are grateful and appreciating what they have. I love when people share a positive experience. I like to see families together. And I like being around children because there's this purity there. So if I'm able to support them in any way, shape, or form, like that makes me that makes me happy. On a more practical side, or maybe surface level, I like to watch comedy, so that makes me happy. I like when you can have that humor, about things, and it's also nice at times to watch comedy by myself because I don't have to worry about any competing judgments or whose side I'm on. I can just laugh for the sake of laughing.
Well, that's one thing that gets in the way of happiness, right? Is being concerned about what other people think.
Yeah, I think now more than ever we have all of these lines, all these this essence of friend or foe.
Yeah. One of the things that I just happened to read this morning, just skimmed the headlines for the New York Times because I try to avoid certain political topics. But there was an interesting article about happiness, which I thought was perfect timing for our conversation. And they broke down two different kinds of happiness. One is hedonistic, which is more like simple, more immediate pleasures, like I love this ice cream, or I love the smell of lilacs, or and then something that's got more meaning and purpose to it, which is, I think they refer to it as eudaimonic. And they were emphasizing that we need both. We need the things, the little things, stopping to smell the roses, but also to be able to be doing things that have meaning for us personally. What do you think about that?
Yeah, what I hear is purpose. There's a need to connect in purpose. I think happiness, again, it's fundamentally an emotion that unfolds within itself. Purpose is what we crave. And out of both of those, what you'll notice is that they both happen in the present moment. And that's a big part of all of this is being here where you are now. It's the only place you're going to find happiness, not in another place that you think you need to be. Because then when you get there, if you're not practicing presence, by the time you get there, you'll think you'll need to be somewhere else again, and you'll miss the very thing that you were going after or wanted.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Have you found that true for yourself?
Absolutely. It's amazing what opens up from the experience of reality, practicing presence and being here and now. And also, when I started reading up on neuroscience and perspective, particularly Bolato wrote a book called Deviate, and he's a world-renowned neuroscientist. And I think the way he wrote the book is brilliant because it's not like a conventional reading. He really brings in the concept of perspective in the way some of the pages are outlined. And what you realize is just how minuscule of access that we have to all that can be accessed, meaning we get a sliver of information of all that there is. And so where we put our focus is so important. It's like we're looking through a peephole of reality. And so if we want to look at the bad, then that's all we're going to see, because there's not going to be room for anything else. And the same thing goes to look at the positive. It becomes two options that we have a choice from, and so happiness becomes a choice as well. And both they're found in the present moment, being here.
So how do you expand the peephole from that you were just referring to, the peephole of either seeing good things or bad things, that black and white perspective?
Yeah, I use a lot of maps when I'm working with people, and that helps. I find, yeah,
What you mean, mind maps or something else?
in a way. So I've created a map for a lot of things, or I've used a lot other people's maps. So let's see. If we go deeper into the layers of how we show up, if I reverse engineer this, we have our outer personality. That's our outer layer.
Right. The
And then
mask.
yeah, it certainly is. And oftentimes we don't know we're wearing it. Behind that is our actions and our behavior, or our way of being. Behind that are our emotions, how we're feeling. Behind that are our thoughts. And I do this exercise with clients to help them understand the circle behind that, because even when I say the word, it gets lost on people. So I do the exercise first. And the exercise is thinking of something that you feel from a place of anger, or maybe fear, or maybe even guilt. And that's all I tell people to do. And people listening, they can do that right now. Just think of that. And then notice the thoughts, maybe in the more colorful words you'll use. You may see yourself in your mind acting, behaving a certain way. And that's all you have to do. And that's the only instruction. And then we'll do a brief meditation. And the meditation is designed to, well, best case scenario, bring someone into a state of heart coherence. So Heart Math Institute has figured out a quite simple approach to do that within minutes. And we cultivate that experience of love. And when they have that experience, this can be anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. And then they have that experience. And then I ask them to look back at the same thing that they were thinking of, and without putting too much analytics on it, just think real quick of what comes to mind. Doesn't mean it's right. Just notice what comes to mind. And 100% of the time, it's guaranteed. It's how it works. You're going to notice a difference in your thoughts, how you relate to it, how you feel. Even if you still feel right in that first process, you're going to notice a difference. So now you have this experience. Okay, so what happened there? And then this is where I show people the map of consciousness, which comes from David R. Hawkins.
Oh, sure.
And so when they see this now, what happens is you realize that love is not some random place, and it's not an emotion, it's a state of awareness. And then the first states, those 3 options, it doesn't matter which one, it's all geared towards the lower mind. We're coming from survival. And so now when you see this, you can see the spectrum of frequency, just like radio stations have a spectrum. 102 point whatever is a higher frequency than 88. Well, love is a higher frequency, a higher state of awareness than fear or anger or guilt. And from there, now there's this, oh, okay, so it makes a little bit more sense. And then there's unpacking to learn about these different levels, how they operate. And then there becomes this opening of options. Okay, now where do you want to be? And then what's anchoring you, what's keeping you down on the lower levels, and triggers usually reveal that. And then that's where the work starts to blossom open.
This is really interesting what you're saying, and how what I'm really curious about is how what you've just described has affected you personally in your own life and how you see yourself and your own expanding self-awareness, these maps and perspectives that you're sharing. How has that affected you personally? How has it changed how you see the world and yourself?
Yeah, so personally, I am the most emotionally regulated I've ever been. I used to be highly reactive, and I had a lot of, triggers there, a lot of landmines that caused it a lot of activity. And now I'm much more even keeled, and I recognize my emotions. I also experience something else I discovered is oftentimes the emotions I experience are so much more subtle now. What I realize is when you're listening closely, they don't have to yell. So they're not as intense
Mm-hmm.
anymore. Things move me easier, and it's almost daily that my eyes will water over something. It's just more of a sensitivity there. There's less things blocking in the way. My empathy has risen, so I'm much more. I don't want to say because we're always feeling it. There's just blockages. So I'm more attuned to people around me. It matters who I'm around. If someone's in a state of anger, I feel that now directly because there's less armor, things
Mm-hmm.
in the way. This
Mm-hmm.
is where I like being around people that are in a higher state because again, it's not judging the person. It affects me. I realize now how much it affects me, who I'm around, where I am. I can feel the shifts in environments depending on where geographically I am or what areas I'm
Mm-hmm.
in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's made a big change. There's much more of a feel now, a sixth sense on the
Mm-hmm.
world around me. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
walk much more in peace as well, and I didn't have
Mm-hmm.
that before.
So there's something, this is wonderful what you're saying. There is something that you have obviously, what's the right word? Honed, I'll use that word, because you're sensitive, and I totally agree with what you're saying. It seems like the more we are present, the more we do become sensitive to what's around us. So when you're around people that are cranky, let's say, or they have an issue, or they're feeling very entitled, any number of those kinds of um, kind of pushy feelings, how do you deal with that? How do you move through that without getting caught up in it and reacting to it?
Hmm. One of the most powerful realizations that has supported is to recognize when it's not you. Because when you become more empathetic or open back up that sensitivity and you don't know it, the energy feels like it's you.
Mm-hmm.
So when you can realize and be conscious of your state, and then when it shifts, notice what was around or what person may have made that shift. When you recognize it's the other person, that's where the compassion comes in. It's that understanding of, oh, this is how that person feels. And
Separate realities.
very much so. The struggle has been because my work is, and even my passion since I was a child has always been wanting to make people feel better and support. I also realized that a lot of times unsolicited support can be counterproductive. And so you just allow people to be and allow them to feel what they're feeling, allow them to have their perspectives.
Right.
Yeah,
Because for them, it looks true.
it certainly is because that's all they see though. They
Same,
don't have.
right.
uh,
Same for us, right? We we have our perspective about the way things are.
mhm.
It's our personal opinion from everything we've learned. So the same with cranky, angry people. They believe that they see what's true.
Yeah, I gotta add a maybe an exception to that, or maybe not an exception, like just kind of a. There's a difference though when you go through a journey of healing for yourself because you also have an awareness of the spectrum. You may have been that cranky person, and you've expanded the options in what you can be, where the cranky person may have always just been the cranky person. So they don't even realize what they're defaulting to
Mm,
because that they think is the only reality that's possible. And I think that's the difference.
yeah, absolutely. So, what do you see about life in general that is not about self-improvement or being more productive? What do you see that makes life worth living? And I know you've already said that even as a child, you felt this desire to be of service and help people. So say more about what that means for you and what makes life really worth living.
Yeah. I think at the highest level, what makes life worth living is that
Your life, not
my
everybody's.
life, not
Your life.
okay. What makes my life worth living? Uh, yeah, that's a good question. What makes worth living? It's it's hard not to go too deep on that question because
You
then it
go very
becomes
deep, and as long as it's about you and your experience, because what we want to do, what I want to do is know who you are, not just all of the wonderful skills and expertise you have, but who you are.
well. So and there goes the challenge because through the experiences I've had, and when you go really deep, the you dissolves and there's only us. So who I am is who you are, and vice versa. And I think at the depth of all of it, we all converge into, a single essence. And so what makes life worth living? I mean, for me, well, what it used to be was adrenaline and dopamine. I like doing, high intense activities that used to make life worth living. And then when I started healing, what made life worth living was to support others on getting realizations. The greatest experience I get when people make breakthroughs and shifts that I was able to support in, and that makes it everything. The day I wake up and I get to work with clients is what makes life worth living. People trusting me that they can have vulnerable conversations and share with me. I feel so honored because
Mm.
I'm getting a presence of someone that it's so rare and few, if anyone, has maybe got to be with somebody or see this version of their truth. Uh, and it is a truth because it makes no benefit for them to lie. They're sharing because they feel safe to. They feel the non-judgment. And as Brene Brown says, a lot of things that gives rise to healing is just being with an empathetic ear. She says shame cannot survive empathy, and just being empathetic, listening to people, can be all the value in itself. Uh, and I also think, again, going back at the deeper essence of it all, what makes life worth living is just that. We're given an opportunity for life to experience itself, and so if we weren't living, then we wouldn't have it's the experience itself, good or bad. Because when you take away the judgment, as mindfulness teaches us, it's a non-judgmental awareness. When you take that all away, good, bad, pain, pleasure, happiness, anger, they all just become sensations. They all
Mhm.
become different frequencies of energy. And so the entirety of it all is having the opportunity to experience, I would say, as much of a range as possible, which is where I'm grateful for my earlier experiences, although they might not have been so healthy. I've always been an explorer. So I've experienced such a range of life that I'm grateful for. And I'm still here to walk a little further in the peace of it all.
That might be a conversation for another time.
Yeah, yeah. I've had an eventful journey.
Now that makes it richer, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
I was thinking that happiness is really, I don't know what there's got to be some other word. I don't know what it is yet, but happiness is like an umbrella to me, because underneath happiness is feelings of well-being, a sense of being grounded, a sense of being present. And I think also happiness has to contain within it resilience. And I'm bringing this back to what you said about experience the whole range of emotions, because many people are afraid to do that. They think anger is bad. Any number of feelings they're going to put in the negative category, that they shouldn't be feeling them, or that they don't have the capacity to deal with them. And so I'd like your thoughts about this too, is that to me, happiness is knowing, which goes back to resilience. Happiness is knowing that we can get through all the feelings that we have that come up, that we don't need to be afraid of them, that they're just part of the human experience. So if I know that, even if I'm on the roller coaster of being triggered by something, I know that it's okay. I know that I'm going to survive. I'm not going to fall apart. I'm not going to have a nervous breakdown because I'm feeling anger or fear. It's just part of the human experience. And I think that's what you're saying, or at least I'm making that connection. And just wondered what you thought about this whole concept of resilience and being able to weather our emotional ups and downs is part of the happiness package.
Yeah, so I feel a conflation of sorts between emotions, our awareness of ourself, the understanding in those moments, and also it just keeps coming up for me because this is a big part of the understanding of our emotional range, is that happiness being one of six primary emotions, there is a spectrum in there. So when we say happiness, and a big thing I default to a lot is the wheel of emotions. Okay? And so one of the best ones I ever found, and I can quickly again, part of the maps. I think I'm like 50 maps deep at this point that I use. If we look at happiness within that spectrum, there's joyful, interested, proud, accepted, powerful, peaceful, optimistic. There is inspired, open, playful, hopeful, loving. There is courageous, respected, fulfilled, important, confident, amused, ecstatic, liberated. And so, there's a handful that I missed over there. So when we say happiness, there's that whole range in there, and it's the same for anger, and it's the same for sadness, and it's the same for fear, and it's the same for disgust, and it's the same for surprise. And so, one of the things that's helped, and this is part of an earlier question too, how has this changed me, is the granularness in which I can understand emotions. Because when we just say happy, well, what in happiness? And it's usually not the whole range that we're feeling, it's something in there. When we say we're angry, it's usually not the whole range, there's something in there. And when you can go deeper into the specific of what in happiness, it's like you say you like the color blue. Well, what hue in the spectrum of blue? If you go to Home Depot, there's 100 blues. What blue is the one you like? And so then you can start to understand what angle of happiness you're experiencing and where that's coming from. And then you get to understand, well, what brings that about? And then you have this connection to self, right? To maintain that, or to bring it back. And when you go into the other emotions, you're flowing through the ranges. And anger often is a secondary emotion. That is the emotion that allows us to feel stronger when we're confronted usually with sadness or fear. So anger becomes that moving energy. I'm going to make this different. I need to change something in the outer world, which can be beneficial. A lot of movements have come about being angry the way certain things are. And if we're moving with that energy, then it becomes productive. If we're dwelling in it, then all it does is hurt ourselves. And we can have a whole conversation on the negative effects that holding anger and that stress and what it does at a cellular level. So anger is best if you feel it when it's expressed. It wants an outlet.
Right. That makes so much sense. Boy, I can remember as a teenager talking about getting stuck in certain emotions that I had quite a tumultuous relationship with my mother during my teenage years, which most of us do in one form or another. And because it wasn't acceptable to express emotions, especially anger towards a parent, whether it was A, right to do, or B, whether they would actually hear it or not, I would have dreams where I would be jumping up and down, screaming my objections to whatever my mother had been telling me I should be or shouldn't be doing. And I think we all, for me, that brings it home that all of our emotions need to be let, it's bad English, let them all move through us. Because, right, with energy medicine, you can get blocked chakras or your meridians are jammed up or your energy field is contracted and all of that, the biochemical reactions that happen within us is that energy medicine is based on that idea of flow, of the energy being able to move through us. And if we don't allow that to happen, then it's either mental or physical dis-ease of one form or another.
Yeah, it's meant to be processed fully. Energy is not meant to be stored in the body, and it's also where our wisdom is gained by processing it fully. Uh, a term I heard on this or a statement about it that is one of my favorites is that wisdom is memory void of emotional charge.
Ooh, that's interesting.
And the more comical example I like to give is again, we have trouble being able to grasp the unseen. Yet we're really good at the physical and understanding that. So if we start at the physical and we look at another thing that needs to be processed, that also gives us energy and fuel, it's food. We eat food. We don't expect it to sit in our body our whole life. We expect it to be processed in, a day or so. And if that food isn't processed, if it doesn't come, back out through in like a week, that's a problem. 2 weeks, maybe we're in the hospital. And we can recognize that so easily. Yet with emotion, we don't think anything of it. And so a lot of people are walking around emotionally constipated.
So true. And we don't think there's anything wrong with it. That's so what to me is so interesting is that most people who have a gripe feel like it's legitimate.
It is to their ego.
Right. But
Yeah.
in terms of holding on to emotions and preventing us from being happy, it's like, no, I can't be happy because that person is has offended me, or that guy cut me off on the highway. I don't have, I have every right to be angry.
Yeah.
Where
And
does
you
that
can
get
be.
us?
You
Yeah,
can be. It serves the person no benefit to hold it though. And it
right.
goes back to seeing where it manifests in the physical. It can be difficult to draw these correlations because they can play out over 20, 30, 40 years a lifetime.
Yeah.
Yet what we do know, and a way to understand it practically, is when you're holding on to this unprocessed energy, and you can tell by triggers. Triggers reveal where we have left to heal, and that shows what's still stuck inside of you. And when you hold on to anger, what you're causing and incurring in the body is stress. Okay, so stress we understand quite well, and when we have a high level of stress, the mind is now producing elevated levels of cortisol, which is the
Right.
stress response.
Adrenaline, norepinephrine, all of those.
Exactly. And so now we're now in the physical realm, right? These quote unquote chemical imbalances that usually, if not always, start at the mind, at the energy. And so now when you have that, well, just follow the trail of what that does to the body. And that is the correlation, what the stored anger is doing to your body. It manifests itself in the physical in those ways. And then this has a correlation to a lot of illnesses and life-ending
Yeah.
diseases.
Yeah. Have you ever had an experience where you could feel the result of anger or another really strong emotion that was recycling in you, in your
Oh
mind?
yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. That was a big part of me being uh, just infatuated with this work, is because anger was the doorway, the essence of what I wanted to remove. I had a lot of it stored towards my father, and I didn't like the person that would show itself when that anger, it's to the point where it would take over. It would bring up a version of myself I wasn't fond of. It wasn't healthy anger. It was repressed and stored through years of hurt and continuing to get triggered and to lack boundaries. So it just allowed more and more pain to go through.
Mm.
And so, yeah, very clearly. I also had one of the most amazing experiences of my life is feeling when that passed. And that was such a incredible experience to feel that.
Did
And it was
you,
that.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt. Did you, when that passed, was that something intentional that you did or made happen in some way?
Yes, I didn't know that was going to happen from what I was doing. I was still learning. I wasn't even coaching at this point. However, yes, I was going through a structured exercise, and yeah, and so that's given a lot of backing to what I do with clients. Like, I was the first test subject,
Right.
so everything I do, I've experienced. So I'm coming from the experience of it, not merely the intellect of something I know. Like I don't ask anyone to do anything I haven't done myself.
Hmm. Right. Well, that's what they say. You can't really, your ability to share your wisdom is only a result of how much wisdom that you've accumulated, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But I think that what you were saying earlier is that to me, as I've been examining this question of happiness and how, with everything that's written about it, movies about it, we still really don't understand it very well. But, and I think because it's a layered subject, it's a rich subject. And that one, not only resilience in the face of the roller coaster of emotions that we have, but also happiness is a result of forgiveness slash letting go, right? Because if we store everything, we store all our grudges. We don't forgive people because they're living in a separate reality, and what they do is they think is the right thing to do. But what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of blocks to happiness. It can be a perspective that blocks it, limited beliefs. Some people may have been taught to not allow happiness into their life, depending on the situation they're born into or had to go through. So it can come down to perspective and perception of the world. And it could be what has happened. I think naturally we're happy. I've not ever seen, outside of moods that happen, I've not seen an unhappy baby.
Right.
We come with this light. Yes, we come with this purity, and we can't not. We don't have an identity built in yet. We don't have the cognitive function to think of something good or bad. We're experiencing our world, and we're getting a hold of our environment, and our brain's starting to decipher what's needed, what's not, what's going to benefit, what's going to keep us safe, what we're allowed to do. And all that stuff starts getting formulated. think happiness is inherent. It's it's there. And there's a number of factors that can begin to diminish it. Yet anything that comes into the world pure is always there to be restored. It can never be, no matter how deep the hole gets dug of despair or life or whatever happens, I'm certain that it's always there awaiting to be reinvigorated if you take the journey, the exploration to go seek it back out and discover what's in every obstacle that comes up in the way of achieving that.
Yeah. Was it Socrates or Plato who said the unexamined life is not worth living?
I don't know. I do know that quote though. I don't know who said it.
I
Yeah.
always get it mixed up.
At this point, there's so many. There's so many great ones.
Oh, and it's amazing if you look at any of the Greek philosophers, the subjects that they were talking about are completely relevant for today. Completely. It just says something about how it takes us a while to really learn things that have to do with us individually, our way of seeing the world and what gets in our way.
Yeah. I think the challenge is there's nothing built in that we have to. It's a self-explored, self-directed journey or experience. And that's another, I think, fault of society is we don't have anything built up where these things are inherently taught or structured to be fundamental because they are. We've been talking about the same thing for centuries. We reword it in a lot of colorful ways, and we can take the objective lines of the picture and we can keep coloring it and using different palettes and different colors, yet the picture's still the picture. And the closer you get to the center, the less ways there are to really say it. It's all circling around the same thing.
I guess that's why they say that if two enlightened masters got together, they wouldn't really say much.
No, they wouldn't.
They'd smile and, how's the weather or something. But the deepest stuff there, it's just, it goes beyond words.
hmm The deeper you understand self, the deeper you'll understand everyone else, and
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
it comes down to. And that goes
Because,
back to that oneness. Two enlightened masters come together. I would propose that there's only one person there.
yeah, one essence.
Yeah.
So as we wind down, before we do, talk a little bit about being one world, how you got that idea, and where people can find you. And we'll have liner notes that people will be able to get links to reach you. But just in general, what is being one world?
Yeah, thank you for that question. When I was starting to explore all these different teachings and studies, there was this curiosity of what we as humans have been saying. I wasn't looking for the right answer. I was looking for as many angles as I could find. And what I started to notice was that it sounded to me as if we were all saying the same thing. And I realized that one of the major challenges in the world is we don't all have an agreement on how to live.
Mhm.
And if we had that agreement, these core values, then the arbitrary lines and divisiveness would dissolve and we would be one world. We would be this one earth species. So that's where the name came from. And within my teaching and coaching and everything, I do my best to practice and guide others through. Everything is coming from that concept. Everything that I can offer one person, I can offer any other, regardless of background, because it's not about your ethnic background. It's not about your faith. I'm relating to you as a human. And then how you mold that is completely up to you. That gives the uniqueness of your subjective expression,
Mhm.
your experience. So that's where the name came about. And everything is, all the social media, the website, beingoneworld.com is where you can find me. Instagram, Facebook. I actually just started loading videos on TikTok. I think that's my actual name though. Yeah, Being One World will get you to my socials. or my name. And there was a third question there. I think I missed in the middle there. Where was
Where can people find you? And what have you got going on these days? Have you got anything in particular that you'd like to share with us?
I have an in-person event, another one coming up at a local energy and wellness center, which is a really cool place to go check out. And they have this new EE technology. I'll talk about more as well when I'm there. So I have a workshop coming up in person there at Samsar Energy and Wellness Center. It's going to be Thursday, May 29th.
And where
At,
is that?
it's right on Rosa Road, down the road from Ellis Hospital.
Oh, so in Schenectady. So it's an in-person event.
Yep, in-person event. Yeah, before the circle there, there's a circle going Balltown Road and
Mm-hmm.
146 there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had a quote I wanted to share.
Oh, please.
I mean, yeah. And this is by, if I can pronounce this correctly, Ramana.
Maharshi?
Yes, yes. Thank you for the support there. Thoughts come and go, feelings come and go. Find out what it is that remains.
Mm, nice. That's a perfect way to end our conversation. So thank you so much for joining me. And for those of you who are listening or watching, thank you for joining us and stay tuned for the next episode. So bye for now. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you, Nita, for having me.